Hey fifth graders, this is gonna be part 2. So let's solve these problems. Well, I'm assuming that you already answered these questions, right? We're just going over the answers together. Okay, so again, all of these questions are going to cover all the pages that we read so far, so Tuesday and today. So let's go ahead and get started. Underline the phrase that makes each statement correct. Number 1, everyone wanted to be in the 5th and 6th grade play because A, Mrs. Morrison gave extra credit, B, Mrs. Morrison was the best play director, and C, there were so many lines to memorize. Well, if we look at the first page of our story on page 324 in the first paragraph, it says that Mrs. Morrison did the best job putting on plays even if she was kind of old. So, it looks like the answer would be B. Mrs. Morrison was the best play director. Make sure that you're underlining the answers instead of circling the letters. And the story doesn't say anything about extra credit, right? So we know that. All right, number 2. Mark thought that he would get the main part because A, he had worked so hard to learn the part, B, Mrs. Morrison heard him saying his lines, and C, he was one of the best speakers. Well, right off the bat, I know that B is not the answer because the story does not really say anything about that and how that's related to why Mark thinks he will get the best part. The options we have are A and C. A, he worked so hard. That's true, right? He did work very hard. And C, he was one of the best speakers. But what is the main reason that Mark thinks that he would get the main part? Back in page 324, it actually tells you. I figured I would probably get the main part. Most other people thought I would too. Just about everybody knew I was one of the best speakers. So the reason being is because he believes that he is the best speaker. Therefore, number 2 is C. Moving on to number 3. Mark learned all the lines for the part of Joshua because... So remember, for the audition, for the tryouts, it wasn't required for the students to memorize everything. But he decided to do it. Why? A, he needed to know all of the lines. Well, we know that's not the answer because the story says they didn't have to know all the lines. B, he wanted to impress his family. And C, he thought he would get the part. Right now, I went to page 325, and it says here, when I got home that night, I ran up to my room to start learning my lines. I highlighted them with my yellow marker, 57 of them. I might as well learn all of them, not just a few for the tryouts. So we know that the reason he is learning all of the lines is because he thinks he's going to get the part. He's very confident about this, right? Therefore, our answer to number 3 is C. He thought he would get the part. Did you get the same thing? Good. Number 4, Mark was starting to get nervous during the tryout because A, he had rehearsed for so many days. B, Mrs. Morrison was frowning and whispering to the principal. C, he had to leave early. Well, we know it's not C. He does not have to leave early. And he did rehearse for many days, but that should make him feel more confident. So the answer should be B. If you look at page 326, it says right away that they are whispering again, and I was starting to get a little nervous. So the reason he was nervous was because Mrs. Morrison was frowning and whispering to the principal. Okay, number 5. Mrs. Morrison had lost sleep because A, she had been worrying and praying, B, she had no concern for Mark, and C, the principal had said that Mark must be Moses. Well, we know it's not C. The principal does not say anything about that. And D is not true either because she does care about Mark, right? She showed that in today's reading. If you remember from today's reading, she says that she was very worried. So this is page 328. Mark, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, worrying and praying, right? So we know that number 5 is A. 5 is A. Number 6. Mark didn't want to help Randy because A, he liked Randy very much. Well, that can't be the answer. B, he did not see Mrs. Morrison. C, he felt as if Randy had taken his part away from him. Well, if we go back to page 329, it says, I just can't help Randy when he took my part away from me, right? So that's a very straightforward answer. Number 6, C, he felt like Randy took the part away from him. Number 7, Mark felt smug, so very proud and kind of show-offy, that Randy was having trouble with his part because A, he had tried to warn Mrs. Morrison, B, Mrs. Morrison didn't seem to understand his feelings, and C, the part of an Israelite was so much easier to learn. Sounds like a tricky question. Let's go back to the part where Mark says that he feels smug. Okay, page 329. Found it. Mrs. Morrison was pretty patient with Randy, but I could tell she was kind of frustrated. Deep down inside, I felt smug. I tried to warn her, I thought. So gave us the answer right away. He tried to warn Mrs. Morrison, and he feels kind of like, he has that attitude of, I told you so, that I would be a better Joshua than Randy, right? Last question. Mrs. Morrison wanted the students to honor the Lord through the play because A, there were many parts to learn, B, unsaved parents would be coming to see the students, and C, the principal wanted a bigger boy to play Joshua. We know right away it's not C. That has nothing to do with honoring the Lord. And I'm leaning towards B. How about you guys? If you also found the answer on page 327, I did as well. Now, one thing that we have to remember is that we have some unsaved parents who will be coming to see some of you in this play. All through our rehearsals and other preparations, we have to remember to honor the Lord. Yes. Okay, so we got it. Number 8 is B. All right, great job, guys. I'll see you in our next class. Bye.